Does this election season feel like we just had one of the most disorienting nights at the bar or the club? Does it feel like one of those nights where you reluctantly went out, somebody dragged you out, you started to have a little bit of a good time, and it got weird and became a complete shit show? Or is it just me? How do you cure a political hangover? All right. Because we can all agree that this political season in America was too damn much. Okay. The social media campaigns. I mean, it was all I saw on my social media, the texts, the DMs. I was like, Tim Walz is DMing me. I remember the first one I got and I was like, Mr. Walz, we just got in the DMs for it. I was like, oh, we all get that. I thought it was special. But all the DMs, all of the media coverage, the RNC, the DNC. Well, the DNC, that was fun. The DNC was fun. Did you all watch? They had Lil Jon at the DNC. That was amazing. In my former hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, literally where fun was created in Atlanta, Georgia. So I will say there were some highs and some lows, but what a mess. It was such a mess that this therapist and this wellness person, I got sick because of the stress and because of the anxiety, and also because I did a little too much, and we'll talk about that later. So just like hydrating and taking pain meds and eating some carbs or a garbage plate, I decided to research and come up with a list of 5 ways that you can overcome a political hangover. So why would I know anything? Well, my name is Adri, and I am a developmental therapist and certified life coach. And I am here to guide you to your full potential in mental, physical, and spiritual health. So you can help me out here by subscribing to my channel. If you like wellness content, you can like this video and comment these, and also, turn your notifications on, hit the bell. Those are just a couple of ways to support a growing YouTube channel, and they're free and easy. So thank you so much for being with us today. So 5 ways to overcome a election season hangover. So first way, have you ever heard of the term doom scrolling? If you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Z, even if you're a Gen Alpha, you probably know what doom scrolling is. So doom scrolling, according to my good sis, Merriam-Webster, it's actually in the dictionary. Can you believe it? I think it was like the newest, I think in another dictionary. I can't remember which, the Cambridge, I think it was like the #1 new word. So it is officially in the dictionary. So that's pretty cool. It's spending excessive time online through news and other content that makes one feel sad, anxious, or angry. So right, we all do it, right? I've literally been doing that since the internet came out. Like, we all do it, but we're going to talk about how it negatively affects your body, your well-being, and your mental health. So when I had my bachelor's, so I'm in school for my master's right now, but when I had my bachelor's, I have a bachelor's in fashion merchandising, and I had a random elective, and it was a broadcast journalist class, and I was like, broadcast journalism class. I was like, oh, this sounds pretty interesting. I thought it would be pretty cool to take it, and look at where it brought me. So that's pretty cool. But one of the things that I remember from that class that my teacher said was, if it bleeds, it leads. Now that means if it's fearful, if it has some kind of unaliving or some kind of, I can't even say a lot of these words on here, but if it has any kind of scary element and scares people, oh baby, it's going to be the #1 watch news story. And now in these days, #1 clicked. It's clickbait, things like that. And we have to think about how the media works. Media companies and stations and channels, they get ad revenue from companies. And that's how that's how they're able to put out content. So what they want to do is get the most views so that they can get more ad revenue. It's essentially what we do here on YouTube, but they're just at a bigger level. So it's essentially made to stress you out. I'm here to help you, but some of our media that we see, especially like the big corporations, they want to stress you out because when you're stressed out, you want to figure out how to not be stressed out and you want to watch and you want to continue to consume. So doom scrolling has many negative effects on the brain. So this is like straight up science. And I researched this. So it triggers your amygdala, which is located in your temporal lobe, rooted in the limbic system. It is an accessor to our reptilian or our lizard brain. So what is lizard brain? What is reptilian brain? It's our automatic repetitive tasks such as feeding, fornication. I hope I can say that here. Fight, flight, freeze, or fear. So your amygdala releases a threat and our body automatically shifts you into this like hypervigilant state, and it triggers your central nervous system. So dopamine is the feel-good drug, and and social media can be a source of that feel-good drug, but it is proven to do the opposite when we overconsume it. So instead of making you feel good when you're scrolling, you're actually overstimulating yourself. So where are all my diverse people? Where are my ADHD people at? Okay. As a member of that community, we already have our struggles with regulating our nervous system, and we already wake up with less dopamine than your average person. So I'm specifically talking to the neurodiverse people. Being on social media for an extended period of time and receiving cheap dopamine it has negative effects on your nervous system, and it can overstimulate you, and it can also contribute to feelings of stress and anxiety. So when we're sitting around and we're looking for something and we're trying to make sense of this world, what these social media companies do, they know how to continue to get you scrolling. They know that if you like a story on a big news company and you continue to like it, they'll continue to feed you that information so that you keep on the app. I mean, it's very simple. It's really very simple. Shout out to that creator, Shop AIF on Instagram. I love her. She has like the whiteboard. Have you ever seen her? It's really very simple. So because you are overstimulating your brain with cheap dopamine, and we're laying in our bed. This is the very place where I like to doom scroll. You're getting a sneak peek into into my personal hellhole, where I like to doom scroll for many hours. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. You're getting cheap dopamine and you're not moving your body. So typically your body gets dopamine from completing a task, like walking to the mailbox. That is a task. Getting up out of bed, washing your dishes. That's why I know there was that general, I can't think of his name, but I always hear people talking about, there's a guy who always says to make your bed first thing in the morning, because it's your first thing that you do. Your bed is made and it triggers something into your brain, and it kind of it's a great way to start your day because your body is already completing tasks. Now, I work with neurodiverse children, children with ADHD and autism, and what we often have to do is move our body. Like I teach parents how to notice when their kid starts getting a little, they start getting a little agitated, or they start, some have meltdowns and tantrums. And I teach my parents how to help their child in that moment when they're having a meltdown. Their meltdown is because they may be overstimulated or understimulated. And it's the same thing for us. We may be overstimulated and we may need to figure out a way to regulate our nervous system. And when we're sitting in bed for 3 hours, getting a bunch of cheap dopamine, it's not good for our system. So that's why we need to move our body. So one way that you can overcome your political hangover is to touch grass, honey. Touch some grass. You need to touch some grass. Okay. And I found an article on Harvard Health. There's a doctor by the name of Dr. Aditi Nerurkar, and they are actually a Harvard stress expert. And they say that doom scrolling and not moving your body contributes to existential anxiety. And that is essentially a feeling of dread or panic, and it contributes to overstimulation. So we talked about that. And if you already struggle with neurodiversity, ADHD, attention span problems, meltdowns, panic attacks, the key to those things is regulating your nervous system. And so being online for all of those hours is not a great way to regulate your nervous system. So some ideas for you, besides like touching grass, like literally touching grass, you may have to physically move your phone away from you. Sometimes I live in a loft, as you can see, and sometimes I have to put my phone at the bottom of the stairs so that I won't touch it. Like specifically when I'm trying to research for this podcast or write a paper or do clinical reports. My absolute arch nemesis. When my clinical reports start backing up and I have 4, 5, 6 of them to do, and I just cannot stand away from my phone. I mean, it is an addiction. It is an addiction. Our bodies, our brains, it loves it. It loves an easy way to get that dopamine. So I have to physically put my phone away. I have to go for a walk, stretch, complete a task, wash some dishes or make my bed or do something. And that stimulates to my brain, oh, happy, 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 happy. Some other ways, super easy ways, great ways, free ways, listen to music, dance, make a list, check it twice. And those are ways that you can send dopamine to your brain in a more effective way. So couple of other ways that you can touch grass and increase or decrease your phone use and your doom scrolling use is grayscale your screen. Research says it contributes to less screen time because it's not as visually appealing. I don't know how to do that. I'm not the best with technology, but this is what the girlies are saying in Harvard. So that might be a good idea. This lash is literally coming off. My lash is coming off, y'all, and it's driving me nuts. Okay, how we doing? How we look? Okay, I'm trying to look good for y'all.
I had plastic surgery because I was trying to look good for y'all.
Okay, the things that I go through for y'all. Okay. Okay, I said this in my last podcast. It was the one before this. I think it's episode 82. Basically, it was like how to survive election season, I think. Anywho, I talk about it. There's a way that you can adjust your political settings on Instagram. It's fine. I'll promote Instagram. There's a way that you can do it. You go to settings, and I believe it's like controls or something. You can Google it, but I found that just like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, why didn't I know this before? So that's very helpful. So you can adjust your political settings. If you don't want to hear anything about certain names, you can mute those names. You can mute certain comments. You have fun with the political settings on Instagram. Oh, and lastly, I know y'all won't like to hear this. And when my therapist says it and when my pastor says it, I get upset, but I'm going to say it to you because it's definitely very true. Focus on the good. You are what you think about. We have so much control of our brains. We tell our brains what to do. If you focus on the good, it is what you're going to start seeing. So if you only focus on a certain something, or if you only focus on the fact that someone's probably going to ruin the country, then that's all you will attract. So let's try to have positive thinking here. I know, magical thinking, positive thinking. What do I know? Just the therapist talking. So touch some grass. Number 2, prioritize self-care. Now, what is self-care? Psychology Today says self-care is the regular intentional process of devoting oneself to protecting and sustaining your mental health. It is more, I've said this all of the time, it is more than just face mask and lotion and spending money like our capitalistic society wants us to make it. It's truly a protective factor towards resilience. It is proven by science to be very helpful to our minds and our bodies. Now, we talked about how social media makes you more depressed and anxious. Well, self-care does the complete opposite. Studies show that self-care increases self-esteem, optimism, mental health, and self-worth by lowering your levels of anxiety and depression. So you're like, well, how the heck does it do that? What is a face mask going to do to me? I mean, I love a good face mask. So I feel like face masks are the representative of self-care for everyone. But see, look, how do you tap into your self-care routine? Self-care I would say outside of social media, because I know a lot of people like to sit and scroll and watch videos and laugh, which I love to do that too. But let's try to think of something outside of social media, specifically because we're trying to decrease our doom scrolling and our social media usage. What are some things that you like to do? Do you like to run? Do you like to make music? Do you like to play guitar? I recently enrolled in a dance class and I really, really love that because I grew up dancing. I was a cheerleader and a dancer my whole life. And it's really nice to meet new people and move my body. It releases that dopamine for me. And there's like, it's a hip hop class, but sometimes we do like little sexy moves and it makes me feel sensual, makes me feel good about myself. And when I learn a routine and I can complete it in the end, it makes me feel good about myself. My self-esteem improves in that class. So that's a hobby that I like to do. This weekend. So I had a whole self-care routine prior to the election. So I really love live music. So I went to see Marc Rebillet play. If you don't know Marc Rebillet, he used to be called Loop Daddy. And I guess you would call him like a producer or a DJ. He makes live songs, like improv songs in front of your face. So like he called up four or five people out of the crowd. And he was like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And some guy's like, I'm just here I'm trying to get lit, trying to turn up. And then he made a song and it was like, I'm trying to turn up. 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 It was so fun. It was so exciting. And I feel like it was a great way to prepare for the worst or the best. I also love live sports. So I went to an LA Clippers game at the new Intuit. Is it Intuit or Inuit? Intuit Arena in where did I go? It's in Inglewood, Los Angeles. So that was really cool. So I did a couple things. I had made sure my fridge was stocked with all my favorite foods. And I had a self-care package and a self-care routine going into the election because I knew that it was going to be stressful for me. Now, when we talk about how to set up your self-care and where you should base your self-care from, this is where I failed because I ended up getting sick, and it's because I didn't do one of these things. So when we base our self-care around your 5 sources of energy, you won't get sick. Hopefully, I can't guarantee that, hopefully you won't get sick like I did. I think personally for me though, I didn't sleep. So that's why I was so stressed and so anxious, and also like a little overstimulated, a little excited because of a concert. Because, okay, I'll just tell you guys, when I was in the crowd, Mark came up to me and like gave me the mic and was just like, do whatever. Like he just gave me the mic and I was like, what do I do? I actually ended up saying like, yeah. I started screaming. I didn't know what to do. And I had no voice and I had no sleep the night before. So I just screamed, but like, that was so cool. And then I had a really amazing night at the Clippers game. So I was just like kind of running on fumes. So when we think about our 5 sources of energy or 5 sources of self-care and our sources of energy, sleep is one of them. I didn't get enough of that, but we should be getting about 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Very, very difficult for me. I'm a night person. I like to be up all night. I'm a creative, but it's so important that I'm getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So if you are, God bless, kudos to you, but I struggle with that. But it is something that is important to me. Generally, like this is how we know self-care is important. If it's something that you do on vacation, you probably should be incorporating it into your life if you can afford it, right? Like on vacation, I sleep. Like I should be doing that from day to day, but I generally do it on vacation because I'm like, well, if I'm going to do anything, this is the time. So 7 to 8 hours of sleep is necessary. Some people require more. I had a professor that slept 10 hours a night. She was like, I sleep 10 hours a night. And I tried to do that and I could not do it. I was like in a coma. Like I literally slept for 10 hours. Like I took a melatonin to help me sleep. And I took an entire, I don't remember the amount, but I took an entire melatonin and I was like, oh my God, I don't know how she does it, but that's what some people require. She's a mother and that's what works for her, but it does not work for me. So like for me, it's like 6 to 7 hours. And if you require more, good for you. Okay, next thing, food, healthy, well-rounded meals. I mean, this is super elementary. We all know that it's important to eat healthy, consult your doctor, your nutritionist, whoever is your medical professional that can help you, get your eating right. That's so important. I know lots of athletes eat a certain way before their match or their game. And when we go into stressful situations like an election, it is important that we give ourselves the proper nutrients so that our body can deal with the stress that it's going to go under. And I think this is true for everything that we do that can be stressful. So food, sleep, state of mind. So your mental health, we essentially want to decrease your stress and your negative thinking so that it doesn't trigger you into it doesn't trigger your amygdala into a state of fight or flight. We don't want our body to go into that hypervigilant state. So we want to try to stay as central, as regulated, as de-stressed as we can. And so practicing mindfulness and doing what we can to make sure, going to therapy with a local therapist to make sure, or a life coach to make sure that we are taking care of our mind and our mind is at a regulated state. Last two, our breath. So our physical, so moving your body. We just talked about that. So stretching. I love stretching every day. That's what I try to do. And I do it first thing in the morning, at the end of the night. It just helps me to relax, helps me to focus on my breathing. And it's a great way it's a low impact way to move your body. So that is a way that I self-care myself. And that's free 99. We don't have to pay $1 million or $150 a month. We can do it for free at home. And lastly, our souls, our connection to source, our higher power. So however you need to connect with your higher power or nature. Personally, for me, I like to pray. In the mornings, I like to go outside and be in nature, in one with the universe, and talk to God. Give him all my gratitude. I want to thank him and make my requests known to him, as well as ask for help. So I definitely think that's a great and free way to take care of yourself and take care of your soul. So we've already talked about touching grass and prioritizing self-care. So we only have three more. So then another way to overcome your political season hangover is to connect with community. So the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is called NAMI, they report that community is critical for us to survive, especially those that are more vulnerable to mental illnesses. So because we all desire to belong, it's an innate feeling and an innate desire in all of us. We want to be heard and supported. It is important that during these seasons of stress, of just doom scrolling, of being in that fight or flight, just being in a state of anxiety, it's important to prioritize community because it's a way for us to feel safe and feel supported, and that you can be your true self. You can just relax and just feel like somebody's going to catch you in a trust fall. Now, remember we talked about that lizard brain back when our ancestors were creating society. The way that their brain was completely dominated by that lizard brain. So their true goal was survival. So it's proven by Darwinism and the survival of the fittest. The ones that were in groups survived more. They had they had food that they could share, or that people shared their food with them. They had people that could help them hide from predators. Having that community around them was not only good for their physical from what they could eat, but also good for their brain, so that their brain wouldn't go into that fight, flight, or fawn or fear, the ways that people fight off stress and defense mechanisms. So why is community important? Community gives us a sense of purpose. Having purpose and helping others is what gives life meaning. So that's the basis of what I do here as a life coach. Through my company, Audacious Life Coaching, I help women to discover their authentic purpose and their authentic selves so that they can go out in the community and do what they were called to do. So we have a community over on Instagram. You can follow us at Audacious Life Coaching and, follow us and get to know us. I share lots of stories and I share lots of things that I'm learning. I do like a cute little chat in the stories, and some of the things I don't post anywhere else. I don't put it anywhere else. It's just for my gals and my guys. I have some guys some males that follow me, and it's a great community. We all help each other. We do suggestions. I share resources and other people that inspire me, books I'm reading. So join us over there if you feel like you need some community, you need some support. But what are some other ways that you can find community? Well, you can start with the things that you value. So what's a way for me more to share community with people that have the same values as me? Church. Church is a big part of my life. I watch, actually, my parents had a revival last night. They had a big prayer service, and I watched it, and I just was thinking, I'm like, wow, I've really been in church my whole life. I've been in church since I was little, and my parents have been in church since they were born. My grandparents, my great grandparents. I mean, it is just it's a thing in my family. It's a lineage, it's heritage, it's culture. So church is where I know that I can meet people that believe in Jesus Christ. So we have a value right there. That is the foundation of who I am. And that is a big part of me. So we share the same values. We might not have every single value that's the same, but our foundation is Jesus. And that can be the basis of a wonderful wonderful community. So you can connect with people that share your same values, whether it's church or like the homeless community. You value taking care of people that are forgotten. There's a girl actually from my church who has a heart for the homeless community, as do I. And we were talking, and she asked me to help volunteer with her down in Skid Row. And so we fed and spoke with, and I did some singing and led some worship, and we led prayers for the homeless. And it's such an amazing experience. It really is an out-of-body experience, because you feel like, I know that I'm privileged. So to be able to take my privilege and my gifts and talents and to go serve people, it's my greatest privilege. And it's so fulfilling. Like, I've met some amazing people, and it just feels really good to make a difference in their lives. So yeah, if you want to volunteer with the homeless, or there's a charity that you really like, you can find community there. Interest. So I talked about dance, team sports, rugby. If you feel like you want to knock somebody out, boxing, if you feel like you got some aggression that you need to get out. Maybe that's a great place to start. Dancing. I know pole dancing's really big here in LA. Yoga is really big. Run clubs. And if you're looking for a guy or a girl, that's where I hear the love connections are happening. So it's a great place to meet a partner too. That's what I hear. What's another one that people love? Pilates. So it's special interest. There's like specific political groups, book clubs. I know that many people on my timeline are focusing on Black authors and activism, and those that are bringing that to the community. So connect with people that like that kind of stuff. Now, like, you can join a group of Republicans that hate Donald Trump in your neighborhood, or, Democrats that own guinea pigs, whatever you want. And you can find people that share your feelings and understand you and can empathize with you. And together you can focus on the local impact, because although all of that is said and done, at a federal level, we really don't have any more control over that. We can focus on the impact that we can make is by our neighbor. And I think truly, when I feel like I have no control and I feel so completely lost and anxious, if I know that I'm around people that care about what I care about, and we're making an active difference in the lives of people around us, that overcomes my feeling of anxiety. And that's just me. And I want to know if you can relate to that. So share some of your favorite ways to meet people with similar values to you or similar interests to you in the comments. Okay, there's two more. So one additional amazing way that I like to have been overcoming my political hangover is to seek information from ancestors and people that I look up to, and or elders, mentors. I actually reached out to a mentor yesterday about something. I'm like, okay, I feel out of control about this. What can I control? What can I do with what God has given me? And she was so gracious to talk me through how I can navigate myself. And it was just very, very helpful because she's older than me. She's lived, I mean, she's already lived her life and has children and is a leader. And she was like, hey, if you can't do this, you need to do this. This is what you can control. And that was very, very helpful for me. So I also reached out to Dr. Cedric Simmons, who is a sociologist in New York. And I asked him, I said, what are you reading right now? What books, what people or what books lift you up when you're feeling, hopeless? And he said, the autobiography of Dr. Martin Luther King, who is a hero of his, and also the letter from Birmingham jail. And I said, well, isn't that something? Because I read that every 4 years because I feel his anguish and his anger. And when he's going off in such a classy, educated, intellectual way, I can definitely identify with that because I'm not going off like in that way. I'm like going off behind my at my house or behind a keyboard. So it helps me to like center myself. And this is one of the most famous and one of my favorite quotes from the letter. It says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. So whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So it's really inspiring, and it's really helpful to know how, specifically as a Black American, how my ancestors overcame way worse conditions than us. Like they were hosed down, dogs were stuck on them. They didn't have the same rights. My grandparents, who are very young, I called my grandmother. I called my grandmother on Wednesday, the Wednesday after the election, and I'm like, she grew up civil rights era. My grandma's young, and I'm like, how? And she shared with me how and if you are interested, she said her faith. And just knowing just one day at a time, one foot over the other, and just tapping into our mentors, our elders, and those that have gone before us has been super helpful for me. Some books that I love, Becoming by Michelle Obama. I actually just did maybe like a week before, maybe like 5 days before the election, a reel on Instagram. Follow me at Audacious Adri Show. Follow me at Audacious Adri Show. And I did like a funny little reel, and like we all need to laugh. It was a Barack Obama book. It was like letters to the president. It's like one of my favorites. I cry every time I read it, and I've read it a bunch of times. And I did like a reel with it. I was like, I miss the Obamas. Can they come back? I love them so much. And so Becoming by Michelle Obama is such a wonderful book. And the reason why I think it's really good is because it just tells us about how her life unknowingly prepared her for being a history maker, being, the first family in the American history. I wish it was the first and then the second, but that's just me. But it showed me how her life prepared her, how God prepared her to take that step into history. And it also talked about how her and President Obama were going through a lot in their marriage and their home life while he was picking up traction in his political career. So she talked about her sacrifices that she made as a mother and a wife. She said that there were times where she felt like a single mother, and how she struggled, a lot to try to, raise her two daughters in a healthy environment. So that's just incredibly helpful to me. And I'm sure it's helpful to the moms out there that are in a similar position, whether you're a single mom or you have a husband or a partner, and it's very difficult when they are, maybe have a political career or a very demanding job. So I don't have children and I'm not married, but it just definitely, it encouraged me. I'm like, well, if she can do it with two kids in Chicago, with her father had an illness and her mother actually just passed. But if she can do it, I can do it too. It's just great, just to hear what our ancestors went through, or our leaders, our mentors. It helps us to look at our situations and know that we can survive them. They've been much worse. Also to tap into some artists and some creators and entertainers that we look up to. I've been seeing a lot of James Baldwin quotes and Bell Hooks quotes, and a Toni Morrison quote that I've been seeing going around. I just want to share it with you as we close this episode. She wrote an essay called "No Place for Pity, No Room for Fear." I've been seeing this all over, and it's every time I see it, like, you know how you kind of see a meme and you're like, oh my gosh, if I see it one more time, I'm like, every time I see it, I'm like, yup. I'm like, amen, girl. Yes. As a creative, this really speaks to me. So if you're creative, please tap in. And if you create, or if you bring anything to the world, this is going to, I know this is going to impact you. She says, this is precisely the time when artists go to work. There is no time for despair, no time for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal. I know the world is bruised and bleeding, and though it is important not to ignore its pain, it is crucial to refuse to succumb to its malevolence. Like failure, chaos contains information that can lead to knowledge, even wisdom, like art. I have to read that again. Like failure, chaos contains information that can lead to knowledge, even wisdom, like art. So that really inspires me as a creative person and as a person that makes content, as a therapist, as a life coach, as a daughter, as a sister. It just reminds me to tap in. This is not the moment where we lay in bed and we feel sorry for ourselves. I mean, you know, like Beyonce says, give yourself a day. As a therapist, give yourself, a couple days, and then we have to pick ourselves up. Like my grandma said, we have to take our foot out the bed, just one at a time. There's actually a video. It's probably a podcast episode by Mel Robbins. I know that it was a short too. You can find it. And she talks about if you struggle to get up in the morning, and she says you literally have to like tuck and roll. She says those mornings where it's really hard for her, she literally rolls herself into the floor and like rolls herself into the floor, and like one by one, she just gets up. So some of us may have to do that, and that's okay. If that's what you need to do, what does MLK say? Walk, don't run, or walk, whatever you need to do. Or it might be Malcolm X. Oh, somebody correct me on that, but do what you need to do to get where you need to go. And lastly, we made it to the fifth way we can overcome this political hangover. Redirect your anger by setting new goals. Now, there was a post by our VP, Kamala, and it really inspired me. She was pulling up to the White House and she got out, she waved to everybody. She's like, thank you so much, everybody, but it's time to get back to work. She's like, we got work to do, honey. We're not going to let this get us down. Okay. But she specifically said, it's time to get back to work and focus on what we do best, which is lifting others up. And that just inspired the hell out of me, right? I didn't see no pity party. I didn't see her looking sad. She said, hey, we got to get back to what we do and we got to help our country. So it's definitely inspiring me to adjust my goals and redirect my anger into meaningful work. And that's why I'm so honored to work with people from different corners of the globe with my company, Audacious Life Coaching. Now I have a 10-week program that helps women of all ages redirect their goals, set goals, accomplish goals, figure out what their purpose is, and go out into the world and make a name for themselves. So it's an amazing way that I've been able to channel my experiences. I mean, I remember when I graduated with my bachelor's and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So I ended up doing an internship at a megachurch, a multi-site megachurch in New York. And there I learned to be a leader. I learned what my goal or what my leadership style was. I learned what my strengths and my weaknesses were. And I learned how to rally community. And through that, it gave me the courage to start my first business. My first business was a house management and personal assistant. It feels like so long ago. A house manager and personal assistant business, and I helped mothers, and it was so fun. It ended up turning into Airbnb management and residential cleaning service. And most of my clients were moms. They were working moms and stay-at-home moms. And so I just love working with women. Now I work as a developmental therapist with families, but 100% of the people that I work with are women, are mothers and their children. And I feel indebted to women because my life has been filled with so many incredible women. And my goal in life and my purpose in life is to use my voice to help others and to help women. So if you're a woman and you're looking for ways to improve your mental, physical, and spiritual health, and you need some help in most of these areas, whether it's finding a community that, that resonates with your values, or if you need help with learning how to prioritize your self-care, if you need help setting goals and accomplishing them, if you need the courage to start your own business or start your own YouTube channel, as a person who's been through it, as a person who left a successful business and moved 3,000 miles away and made new friends, started another business, enrolled in school after about 11 years of being out of school, I've been through it and I know how you feel. And as I'm in a new career as a developmental therapist and working with children, I was a nanny for a little bit, but I know that God has placed these little seeds in my life that has given me the ability to be able to do so many different things and pivot and be flexible. And so I want to share some of my guidance with you. I want to be able to lead you spiritually, mentally, and physically, and put you in contact with some of my resources. I was actually just in a women's networking group and I met a neuropathic coach who was sick, and she helps people, not nurses them, because I can't call her a nurse, but she shares some of the things that she did to reverse an autoimmune disorder. So I meet people like that all the time. I met a branding person today. I met a person who coaches new business owners. So these are the people that I share community with, and I want to share them with you. So if it sounds like something that you would be interested in, you can look at click the link in the description box for a complimentary consultation, and we can talk about how this will benefit you. So those are the 5 ways that you can overcome a political hangover. I really hope everyone's doing okay. It is what it is. If you're happy, congratulations. If you're not, I feel you. I feel for you. And honestly, if you ask me, where do we go from here? I think this is now a time more than ever to focus on our purpose and focus on our calling. They do not stop. I think it's time to make those moves. I think it's time to focus more on a local level and the impacts that we can make. I didn't say this before, but there are, oh my gosh, I wrote it in my notes. Let's see. There, in November of next year, there will be primaries for governors and I believe some senators. So how about we start thinking about that after we overcome this hangover? Don't start drinking again until you're until you're good. But you can start campaigning for a governor or a politician that you really connect with, or a community leader. So it doesn't stop for the next 4 years. There's still work to be done. So I'm so glad that you stuck with me. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you like it, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and comment below. I'm so glad you joined me today at the Audacious Life Podcast, and I'll talk to you soon.